Hello friends, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. Today I'm going to talk about two very solid offerings from the brand of Fragrance World that can serve as great alternatives to two fragrances from the brand of Jean-Paul Gaultier. The first one is called John Gustaf Homme Amaze, and you can probably guess that this is being inspired by Le Beau from Jean-Paul Gaultier. And the second one is called John Gustav Homme Le Parfum, and this one is inspired by Le Mot Le Parfum, which is one of my most favorite designer fragrances. The first one that I'm going to talk about will be John Gustav Homme Amaze, and the fragrance itself comes packaged in this box. It's a green and golden color. On the front you get the name of the fragrance, the concentration EDP, the bottle size 100 milliliters. On the top and on the back you get some Fragrance World branding, sticker of authenticity, and also on the bottom there's a production date. If anyone is interested, the production date of this particular bottle is December of 2023. And once you take out the bottle itself, this is how the bottle looks. It's very similar to the original fragrance, but instead of the cap, the so-called cap of the original fragrance, in here you have a real cap that's not really a very snug fit, but all around the packaging is alright, considering that those two fragrances that I'm going to talk about today are quite cheap. The main notes that John Gustav Homme Amaze relies on to build its scent profile are bergamot, coconut, vanilla, tonka bean, and also some woodsy notes. I'll show you the spray in action. The spray is actually quite decent on my bottle. And onto the scent of John Gustav Homme Amaze. This is a very nice, very easy to wear fragrance that opens up with a heavy blast of that coconut note that's accompanied by the vanilla and the tonka bean. Now, the strongest note in the opening is that coconut, and it has a sort of a creamy feel. There's a hint of the bergamot, which adds a bit of freshness in the opening of this fragrance, but to me it's all about the mix of the vanilla and the coconut. In the opening the coconut is the main player, but when this starts to go into the dry down it becomes a little bit more creamy, becomes a little bit sweeter, and actually the vanilla starts to take over as the main note in this fragrance, at least to my nose. And on the dry down you're introduced to some powderness, some sweetness and powderness thanks to that tonka bean note, and also you get a bit of an woody feel out of this fragrance. But all around it's, as I said, all about the mix of the coconut and the vanilla, with some supporting roles from the bergamot, the tonka bean, and the woody notes. It's a creamy, sweet but not overly sweet fragrance that feels slightly fresh, and all around it's very easy to wear, and actually the whole scent and the way that it's been blended by Fragrance World is really nice. When it comes to how close this fragrance is to the original scent, I would say it's pretty similar in the air, pretty much almost identical, but there are a few minor differences. And to me the most noticeable difference is the fact that this lacks a bit of the sweetness of the original fragrance. It just lacks a bit of the intensity of the coconut and the vanilla, especially in the opening. When this goes into its dry down it becomes closer to the original fragrance, because this also becomes a little bit sweeter, a little bit more heavy on the vanilla note. But all around this feels like a slightly less sweet take on the original DNA, and I actually really like this small twist that Fragrance World have done. When it comes to performance, it's not a spectacular performing fragrance, but it's not bad either. I've been getting about 6.5, maybe up to a maximum of 7 hours of performance out of this fragrance, which even compared to the original fragrance is pretty similar. The original has never been known to being a beast mode scent, and John Gustav Homme Amaze, it's pretty close to the original fragrance, so it's a decent performer. Price wise I paid 22-23 euros, and at that price point I think this is a really nice deal. And versatility wise this is an all year round scent, but definitely the best time to wear this fragrance is in the warmest months of the year, and definitely it's more of a daytime scent in my opinion. And now let's take a look at the John Gustav Homme Le Parfum. The fragrance comes packaged in a pretty similar shaped box, but this one is in black and golden colors. Again, on the front you got the name of the fragrance, the concentration EDP, the bottle size 100 milliliters. Again, on the back and on the top you got some Fragrance World logos, a sticker of authenticity, and the production date here, if anyone is interested, is October of 2023, so a slightly older bottle compared to the Amaze one. And this is how the bottle looks. Very similar design to the other fragrance, but this comes in a totally blacked out bottle. Again, a similar cap like the other one. Again, pretty much a, somewhat of a snug fit, and all around a decent packaging and presentation. The main notes that the Jean Gustaf Homme Le Parfum relies on, just like the original fragrance, are the notes of cardamom, lavender, iris, vanilla, and some woody notes. I'm going to show you the sprayer in action of this fragrance. The sprayer here is slightly weaker compared to the other one, the Amaze one. Sometimes it sprays a good amount of juice, other times, as you can see, is a bit spitty. So quality control isn't the greatest because both fragrances are from the same manufacturer and the same line, but have pretty different atomizers. And now onto the scent of Jean Gustaf Homme Le Parfum. The fragrance opens up with a nice blast of that cardamom, spicy cardamom note. I get quite a lot of powderness from the iris note, and I get some sweetness from the vanilla note in the opening. The lavender sits somewhere in the background in the first few minutes, plays more of a support role, but the more this fragrance dries down, the stronger the lavender note becomes, and also the stronger the vanilla note becomes. On the deeper dry down, you're introduced to some of those woody notes as well, and the dry down is a mix of the cardamom, the vanilla, the lavender, and a hint of the iris. All around, another very nicely blended fragrance, very enjoyable scent. As I said in the beginning of the video, I'm a huge fan of the original fragrance, and just Jean Gustaf Homme Le Parfum actually does a very good job at replicating the original scent, but there are a few minor differences. And so on to the point of how this is close and how this differs to the original fragrance. In the air it's very similar, but up close it's a bit different, especially in the opening. The original fragrance opens up a little bit smoother, it opens up a little bit warmer and quite a bit more sweet compared to Jean Gustaf Homme Le Parfum. Jean Gustaf Homme Le Parfum just lacks the intensity of the opening of the original fragrance. It feels like a lighter take, slightly more powdery take on the original DNA. But when this goes into the dry down, it becomes sweeter, and in that way it actually becomes quite a bit closer to the original fragrance. When it comes to performance, this is a better performing fragrance compared to the first one. I'm getting about 7.5 hours of performance, maybe pushing up to 8 hours of performance out of this fragrance, which is a very decent performance in my opinion, but it cannot match the original. The original has always been a very strong performance and gives me over 10 hours of performance. But considering how cheap this is, I can forgive the the not so good performance compared to the original fragrance. Price wise, pretty similar to the other one, 22-23 euros. At that price point, I think it's a very good deal. And versatility wise, this is a masculine fragrance that's more orientated towards the colder months of the year and definitely more of a nighttime scent. And at the end, a few final words about Jean Gustaf Homme Amaze and Jean Gustaf Homme Le Parfum. Jean Gustaf Homme Amaze is actually really nice, and I've been really surprised what Fragrance World have done with the scent compared to the original fragrance. They toned down the sweetness a little bit, and that way actually made it quite a bit more enjoyable to me compared to the original fragrance. I've never been a great fan of the Le Beau line, just because of the amount of sweetness that it has, and the toned down sweetness in here with Amaze actually makes this one more wearable and more enjoyable even compared to the original fragrance, and it's a really nice take on that original scent. Jean Gustaf Homme Le Parfum is again another great effort at copying or replicating the original fragrance. This one lacks a bit of the intensity, a bit of the sweetness of the original scent, and that way makes it a little bit sort of an less good compared to the original, which is to be expected, but still I've been quite enjoying just Jean Gustaf Homme Le Parfum. It's a really nicely done clone of Le Parfum. One thing I want to mention is the fact that when I first tried this one, it felt really weak, and all that I could actually smell was that iris note. And I thought initially that this would end up being a poor performer, but a few weeks of maceration and steeping has actually really helped with the performance of this fragrance. And about a month later, I think this has turned into a really good clone of Le Parfum. And I want to address one more thing, because people will probably ask me in the comment section how these two compare to their you know, the opposition from Maison Alhambra, the Glacier Bold and Glacier Le Parfum. In my opinion, both offerings from Fragrance World are quite a bit better compared to their Maison Alhambra compatriots. And so guys, in today's video I reviewed two really solid offerings from the brand of Fragrance World, Jean Gustaf Homme Le Parfum and Jean Gustaf Homme Amaze. I hope that you found this video interesting or helpful. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.